wonder what in the world is he going to talk about for 8 more classes. But for these first 8, we focused on backyard habitat, backyard birds, and that's roughly 30, maybe 40 species. But in Knox County, our checklist is 168 species that are either here in the winter, here in the summer, or just passing through. I've been already asked about pine siskins, that's a winter species, and rose-breasted grosbeaks, that's a migratory, they're just passing through. So our grad school is 8 classes that cover, goodness gracious, all of those other birds that aren't necessarily backyard birds, although pine siskins will come in to your feeders, as will rose-breasted grosbeaks, but most don't. Most just pass through. So that's what we'll do next year. By a year from now, your head will be full of 168 species. So let's get started. This is the only major university in Knoxville that doesn't have a marching band. We don't need one. We got bird song. We don't need it. We don't have to make our own music because we got bird song. Anyway, again, I will shamelessly promote my 3 books. 3 books written by myself, but published by the University of Tennessee Press. The one on the right, Ephemeral by Nature, there's a whole chapter about red pandas. And in this group, there are 2 people that help take care of red pandas when they're babies at the zoo a few years ago. So in this group, there's 2 people that have nursed red pandas. Whoa! But in the middle book, Ghost Birds, is about Jim Tenner and his time at Cornell. But it's very germane to our topic today, and I'll get there in just a minute. But here's one other aside. If you happen to go online, look up this story. It ran in the United Kingdom, the Telegraph. Why bird watchers are happier than the rest of us. That's the non-bird watchers. Why? It's a great article. I totally agree with it. And principally, we're in the moment. We're not wasting our time worrying about the future or the past. We're in that moment. We're mindful. We're sitting there watching the birds. We see how gorgeous and beautiful where we live. We're in that moment. I try myself not to watch the birds more than 12 hours a day. I try to keep it down to 10, but I'm so peaceful. And studies have shown that people that routinely watch birds, their blood pressure drops. They're at peace. So yeah, we're happier, but that's a great story, so look it up. And here, we typically don't sit out at night to watch the birds, although there's owls out there.
Figure that one out.
Yeah.
Do that.
So here's a couple of books I totally recommend that I have read. A lot of what I talk about came from these 2 books. This is John Young's What the Robin Knows. It's a wonderful book written by a non-ornithologist. He just accumulated his knowledge of watching birds for 12 hours a day. And it's full of just wonderful, wonderful things. And the one nugget I can give you easily is your birds know you. When they see you out on your deck or out on your patio and you're filling up the feeder, they know you. Oh, that's my person. They're filling up the feeder. And they only become alarmed if you do something out of ordinary. Or if a stranger comes on your property, that upsets them. But if it's just you, oh, they're watering their plants. They're fine. So that's one nugget that came from John's book, but What the Robin Knows. I love the book, totally recommend it. And as far as our talk today, Bird Songs by the Seasons. This comes with a CD by Donald Kruzma. A lot of what I know about what I'm talking about today come from this book. So there's 2 books I totally recommend. Well, my book's first, but these 2 books. Anyway, those are 2 books I recommend. Why do birds sing? Why do they sing? Not all birds sing, but why do they sing? They're communicating. They're communicating. Just why do we talk? Why am I standing up here? I'm communicating. So birds sing to talk, to pass on information. all kinds, and we'll get into that. And they're able to do it so wonderfully. This came straight from David Attenborough, my hero. Birds are able to sing so wonderfully, and so often notes that we don't even hear, because they have a syrinx, which is 2 voice boxes. We only have one. This is my only voice. Anyway, they have ours at the top of their windpipe. Theirs is at the bottom. They can sing the same note in both of their voice boxes. They can sing 2 notes simultaneously, offset a bit. That gives them this kind of hollow. That's a wood thrush. Yole, yole, and it sounds hollow. They're singing 2 notes, same note, just slightly off. And they can sing 2 totally different notes. Sometimes the notes are so high and piercing, we don't even hear it, but other birds do hear it. So that's how they're able to do that. They blessed with 2 voice boxes. Of the 10,000 species birds on the planet, roughly half are songbirds. All birds aren't songbirds. The best example locally is woodpecker. Woodpeckers are not songbirds. They peck, they make noises, but they don't do traditional songs. A great blue heron's not a songbird. Anyway, but singing is hazardous. Any given bird has to do 2 things every day of its life. Has to find enough food to survive one more day, and that's where we come in. For the birds that come to our feeders, they have to find enough, particularly in the wintertime, they have to find enough food to survive one more day and not be eaten themselves. So they cannot be a prey animal for a larger bird or Cooper's hawk. Anyway, so it's hazardous for them to sit up and sing their little hearts out. We just got started. Come on in, you're fine. Anyway, so it's hazardous for them to do it. Now, all of this vocalization, and there's a lot going on out there. If you sit outside and listen, there's different things going on. And this is from Kreutzmann books, I think. First, there is territorial songs. That traditionally is the male bird traditionally, although now that there's more female ornithologists, and I got this from David Attenborough, now that there's more female ornithologists studying this out in the field, they're realizing female birds got a lot to say themselves. But traditionally, it's a territorial song where a male is defining his territory. In the case of the little chickadee, seesaw, seesaw. You'll hear that, although it's probably their nesting season, we're deep into the nesting season, but a little chickadee will bounce around, seesaw, seesaw. That's the mnemonic for seesaw. I'll get to that too in a minute. So that's the territorial song that the male bird, and each species has a different territorial song that he will bounce around and sing, bounce around to define his turf. So that's part of what's going on out there. And then there's companion calls. They typically are just a single chip note. Just a pair of birds that are mated in together, like cardinals. They roost at night. They roost in heavy trees or shrubs, but they don't roost side. The male and female, even though they're a pair, don't sleep necessarily. They don't sleep on the same branch. Although right now is nesting season, so she may be on eggs, but they will say goodnight to each other. They'll go disappear in the shrubbery nearby, and it's usually chip, chip. You'll hear them both, hi, good night, just chip, chip. Those are called companion calls, or just often it's just a single note. And all birds will do this with each other, particularly when this time of year when they're mated. In the wintertime, some of that breaks down, but that's companion calls. I'm over here. You're fine. You chose a wonderful shrub to sleep in. I know where you're at. You're fine. So that's what's going on with them. And it may be the same shrub if it's dense enough for them to both be inside. Then there's territorial aggression. These are virtually a growl. It typically is male on male. What are you doing here? What are you doing? This is my turf. What are you doing here? And you'll hear a call, a song, typically more, it's described more as a call than a song. It's not that musical. And I'm going to play examples here in just a minute of some of these. Anyway, those are aggressive. Typically it's male to male. In the case of cardinals, female cardinals are intense. I suspect the female cardinals telling other female cardinals, this is my shrub. These are my young. This is my nest. That is my guy. Don't even think it. Don't even begin to think it. Because she is aggressive with her territory just as aggressive as he is. So that's a territorial aggression. And oh my God, I'm seeing all kinds of this now. Nestling begging. Those poor house finches. For the past, a week to 10 days, Papa House Finch has been trying to teach the young house finches what seeds are. And every morning I like to spread out safflower seeds along the railing because that's eye level. But I've seen Papa and they'll eat the safflower seeds or the sunflower seeds. Poor Papa is standing on the railing in the middle of safflower seeds. And in front of him is one of his young ones. And he's saying, look down. You're standing on food. And Pop will reach down and pick up a seed and cram it in its mouth. Look straight down. And then it's this year I see him up on the sunflower seed feeder. The bird is hanging there, staring at Dad. Dad says, look what I'm doing. You know, the Dad's probably thinking, I knew you were the slow one. I was going to have to take extra effort. So it's nestling begging. And it typically comes with a little and Dad's going, oh my God, this one. But again, I'm seeing a lot of that lately. And the other thing I'm seeing is male cardinals feeding young cardinals too. But they seem to be catching on quicker than those. Those poor house finches. And remember, if you remember our first class, that's a species that was not here originally. They were brought from the West Coast and sold in pet stores as Hollywood finches. And it was a bird that you would buy for your home, but that was made illegal in 1940. And so all the pet shops just opened up their cages and let all the Hollywood finches out. And because they are very used to people, they tended to be around houses now. So now they're called house finches. So that's where they came from. So nestling begging, and then alarm calls. They tend to be very, very harsh to even our ears. You'll hear mockingbirds make great alarm calls. And they are protecting turf. If they see something like a Cooper's hawk or a cat, they will let everybody know. If anybody sees, any bird sees what they perceive as a threat, not you, they trust you unless you're doing something weird. If you start walking closer, if you got a robin bouncing along, and if you change your behavior by starting walking towards it, all of a sudden, and I'll play it in a minute, a robin goes, stop, 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 stop. Stop, it's what it sounds like. Again, that's a mnemonic. Stop, 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 stop. What are you doing? What are you doing? You're walking towards me. Stop, 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 stop. So that's the robin, but alarm calls tend to be harsh to our ears. Bird watchers, birders in England would be called twitches. Anyway, they've got a trick that if they're looking for a bird, hide it in shrubbery. And at deep shrub, at Imes, when I would do bird walks there, wide-eyed vireos are here only in the summertime, but they like to stay hidden. But if you do a thing that birders do called pishing, the bird thinks it's an alarm call, and it'll often hop up and just look around. So that's why birders do the pishing. It's called pishing. And that's an imitation alarm call. So that's the alarm calls. Now this is why my second book is germane to this talk. That's a famous expedition, and my second book, Ghost Birds, it's about primarily looking for the Ivorybill woodpecker, but the first 100 pages, first third of the book, is about this expedition from Cornell in 1935. They left Cornell in February with a goal of photographing, doing motion pictures, but more than yet, recording bird song for the first time. all across the country, they rambled around to look for birds and record them. And what Cornell invented, because you couldn't do it, if you hold up a microphone to record a bird song, you get everything. So Arthur Allen, he's the man in the middle. He was the founder of the Cornell Lab at Ornithology. He went to the physics department and said, we want to record birds. How do we do this? Because if you hold up a microphone, you get the bus way down the road or whatever. And Cornell came up, the Cornell physics came up with the parabolic mirror and the microphone. And that's still in use today, like at NFL games. You'll see somebody walking up and down to record the grunts and the players and not record everybody else going, yeah, make him grunt, all of that. So that's the parabolic mirror that was created by Cornell, but because they created it, they were able to, let's go around the country and record birds for the very first time in location. Wherever we find them, we're going to record them. So that I write about that in the first third of the book because it was historic what they were doing. So that's February 1935, and the man that paid for all of that trip around the country was a man named Albert Brand, and he produced from the recordings a couple of books that had, for the first time. They were produced. This is my copy of the second book. I don't have a copy of the first one. More Songs from the Birds. This was published in 1936 after the expedition. It came with 3. Now I don't have a 78 RPM turntable anymore, but it came with 3 of these recordings of the birds that they did. And so this was the first time ever you could go out and buy birdsong. But again, this is volume 2. They've had so many that Brandt produced 2 books the very same year. They sold for $2.50. What a steal! And they came with 3 78 RPM. So you can sit in your home and listen. Oh my gosh, that's a mourning dove. Oh, that's a meadowlark. For the first time ever. One of my prized possessions. Anyway, move on. Today, we move to the latest technology. CDs were supposed to last forever, right? No, they didn't. But anyway, this is another set I brought. This is what we're going to listen to in a bit. This is recorded by Lang Elliott, and he is like the foremost authority on recording birds. I have a book at home about summer insects, and he did the recordings. Anyway, this comes with 3 CDs, 372 species all over the country. So if you still have what's called a CD player, now truthfully, I know, we hanging on to that. I still have turntables that they play 33 RPM, but none that plays at 78. I still even have a cassette player. Remember cassettes? That was going to be the modern technology that lasted forever. And now I read that the younger folks are buying LPs again and maybe start buying CDs again. Anyway, so that we're going to hear some from that, excerpts from that, of some of the birds, the basic birds. And the other thing I'll talk about now is the mnemonics. You've heard me all throughout these first day classes talk about some of the mnemonics. And all a mnemonic is a phrase that we remember that teaches us kind of the cadence of the birds. Like a great horned owl. Who's awake? Me too. That's a mnemonic. The bird is simply not saying who's awake, me too, but it's a mnemonic. You'll hear that typically late October, November, December. That's when their courtship starts. He will be out there. Then his partner from last year, if she was okay with him, she said, well, he was pretty decent. She'll come back, or she'll go, no. That guy left me on the nest far too long with no food, because that's his job, is to feed her while she's incubating. But anyway, that's the mnemonic for great horned owls. If you remember, in November we had a great horned owl here, we had a barred owl. And the bar down mnemonic is who cooks for you, who cooks for y'all. The bird's not saying that. Ho, 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 ho. Who cooks for you, who cooks for y'all. So that's the mnemonic. But what I did bring, and we're going to, is a list. I don't know if I have enough, but if anybody wants a list, okay. A list of some of my favorite mnemonics for some of the birds. They're really fun phrases to help you kind of learn some of the bird songs. Okay? Now, speaking of ancient technology, I'm going to come over here in the hopes that everyone hears. CD player. CD player. Heavy CD player. And I equipped it with batteries. But see, I've chosen 15 birds to look at, and I think I can do this. I practiced at home. Okay, good. So far, so good. First bird we're going to look at is Carolina chickadee. And I just used the mnemonic, seesaw, seesaw, very high pitch. Seesaw, seesaw.
Carolina chickadee.
Can anybody hear? Seesaw, seesaw. That's the male territorial song. Hear a crow in the background. Chickadee-dee-dee-dee-dee, chickadee-dee-dee. That's communication between both of them. Male and female do the communication. Remember, in my first book, there's a whole chapter. That's a chickadee sentence filled with information. Filled with information. Okay. Who's next? Tough titmouse. Beta. This was the very first mnemonic I ever learned way back in the olden days. I was reading and learning how to do all of this. And I read that the mnemonic for the titmouse was Peter. And I went, what? And here I was walking around outside my house with binoculars. And I heard Peter. What? My God, it's a titmouse. So anyway, let's do that one. How do I do that? I think I do that.
Tufted titmouse.
You've heard this one. They're louder than chickadees. Sometimes they just do peep. They shorten it. Let's play some of the more of the. That's a fussy call. This is the one I call chickpea. Now that's a fussy call. That's an aggression call. Stay back. Or an alarm call. See if I remember the technology of this. If all of a sudden Aerosmith starts coming out of it. Okay. You're dating yourself, Mr. Bell. Okay. There's hardly a day goes by you do not hear a Carolina wren. All of our houses come with a pair of Carolina wrens. You've heard me say it. When you buy your house, it says 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, and a pair of Carolina wrens. They're always around the house. Or some of us locally have house wrens instead. But they're very loud. They're very vocal. They're nesting now. And the typical mnemonic is weedle, 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 weedle. Or the one that I like, cheeseburger, or weed eater, or tea kettle. So they have multiple mnemonics. So this is our Carolina wren. See if he gets it right.
Carolina wren.
You hear that practically every day. Very tense. And the mnemonic really helps you now remember the cadence of a song. You say weedle, weedle, weedle real fast. Fussy. of these are companion calls, really soft to each other. I am over here. Carolina Wrens see something they don't like. Just telling everybody else, don't like this. Okay. That didn't work. Okay, move on. Who's next? Northern Cardinals. What cheer? What cheer? What cheer? Or pretty, 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 pretty. Very loud, very whistled. Not as gravelly as the Carolina. The two loudest in this whole group are probably Carolina Wrens. No, the three like Carolina Wrens, Northern Cardinal, and Blue Jay. But these got a very beautiful voice, very whistled and very loud. Typically it's pretty, 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 or what cheer, what cheer, what cheer. That's kind of the mnemonics. Let's move on. What is it? Number 4.
Northern Cardinal.
Pretty, 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 pretty. What cheer, what cheer, what cheer. Whoa. Again, with Cardinals, male and female, do it, sing everything. She's very protective of her turf, her bushes, and her guy. So she's up there singing just like he is. So that's Northern Cardinal. This is the bird. I used a term earlier, twitchers. That's what bird watchers are called in England and Australia. And when the English happened to be here, this is the bird they had to see. I would be at IMS, I'd get a phone call from someone from the United Kingdom in town on business, and they'd say, I want to see some birds. I said, oh yeah, come on out here. Do you think if I come out to your nature center, I'll see a cardinal? Oh, I think if you just look out your motel window, you'll see it. That was like the height of their, oh, I gotta see a cardinal. I'm in America, I gotta see a cardinal. We take them for granted, but that's cardinal. That's high on everyone's list from other places. Move on. Northern Mockingbird, Northern Mockingbird. And this one fools me all the time. They're mockingbirds. We learned about this. They're mimic learners. The older male mockers learn more phrases. They're imitating this, they're imitating that, they're imitating all kinds of things. And by the time a male mockingbird is, say, 7 or 8 years old, it may know 200 phrases, 200, and a female, we learned this in February, if a female is looking for a mate, she will choose more than likely the mature guy, the older guy, the one that knows most song phrases. She'll say, well, this is a good looking dude, but he only knows 20 songs. I'm gonna get tired of that playlist. And this, oh, look at him. Listen, he goes on and on and on and on. And they fool me all the time. Yesterday or the day before, I said, what in the world is that? A mockingbird tends to repeat each phrase 3 or more times. So if you listen to this long string of everything, it's like everything but the kitchen sink, and they could do, if they would learn how to do the disposal, they would throw that in. Anyway, let me play a typical mocker. Where we at? There and there.
Northern Mockingbird.
On and on and on and on. Now that's a mockingbird. So if you're hearing that, again, each phrase tends to be 3 or more times. That's the northern mockingbird. So, and they're very common. They're all around. They nest in shrubbery, And in the wintertime, this bird is very dependent on berries and fruits, small berries. So it's one of the birds that switches over from insects to berries. That's northern mockingbird. Now another mimic learner, I don't have a tape for the brown thrasher. Doesn't look like a mockingbird other than the shape. It's the same size and the shape. It looks more like a wood thrush, but it's not. It's the brown thrasher. The trick with these guys, each phrase is twice. So it tends to be da-da-da, da-da-da, hop, 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 hop. So if you're listening to that long string, listen, count the phrases. Oh, it's only doing it twice. It's only doing it twice. That tends to be the brown thrasher. We do have brown thrashers. They are more ground birds, are hidden in the shrubs. They feed in dry leaves. They're looking for insects and foods down in the dry leaves. They will occasionally come to a feeder, but mostly down to the grass under the feeder, because they do feed on the ground. But that's brown thrasher. Look like a wood thrush, but much taller, bigger, and with that bright yellow eye. And then finally, the other mimic thrush, or excuse me, the other mimic learner that we have in our area is the gray catbird. And this one tends to do just one. Each phrase is up, and every so often he'll pause and go, meow. And that's it. Oh my goodness, that's a catbird. And these guys tend to be very also hidden in the shrubbery, gray all over. But again, if you're listening to a long string of phrases, and it's only typically one phrase, you go, oh, that's the catbird, and he'll let you know that's the catbird. Meow. They've got that one special phrase where the name comes from. That's catbird. Who's next? Oh, American robin. Cheer-a-lay, cheer up. They're so happy. Cheer-a-lay, cheer up, cheer-a-lay. Let's get to the robin. Robins, if you remember, we covered this in the second class. On a good day, you know, the early bird gets the worm, that's the robin. If they're having a good day hunting in your lawn for worms, they will eat 14 feet of worm a day. It's like that Lady in the Tramp where there's both eating, and I think most of us know that reference. That one piece of spaghetti. So they're always looking for worms in the wintertime when the ground, and typically worms are higher in the ground during the morning, because the ground is cooler. When the ground heats up, the worms go deeper, deeper, deeper. And it's harder for the robins to find them, but they still do. But in the wintertime, when the worms are really big, they switch and eat berries. So that's another bird that switches to berry, all the wonderful berry-producing trees and shrubs to put around your house. So let's hear robin.
Eastern American robin.
Cheer-a-lay, cheer-a-lay. And if you remember my pet peeve, these are not robins. They're thrushes. When our early ancestors came, they didn't know anything about birds, so they named everything something robin. A bluebird was called a blue robin. We fixed it all, except this. And this is that's when you walk towards the robin, they go, stop, 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 stop.
Is that what we hear generally early in the morning?
Typically, yes. They're very active early because they're eating those worms early. Okay, stop there. So, a better name, they didn't call me. I wasn't alive. How could they? If they had called, Stephen Lynn, what should we name this bird? The better name would have been rose-breasted thrush, because it is a thrush. It's a beautiful singer. Cheer up. It's a beautiful singer, like most thrushes are. But it's not. Anyway. I'm talking to first graders. This is not a robin. They look at me like, you think you know your birds? I've known that's a robin since I was 3 years old, dude. Anyway, American robin, who's next? Oh, our eastern bluebirds. We're going to talk about bluebirds. This is one bird we left out this year to squeeze in everything. But in grad school, we're going to talk about, we got one whole class about bluebirds. This is a bird species we almost lost. They were considered rare in the 1920s, and this whole movement to put up bluebird boxes started around the country. Now they're not rare at all. They're doing very, very well. I'm not crazy about the mnemonic, but I don't know a good mnemonic. This is the one I found online, was cheer, cheerful chatter, cheer, cheerful chatter, because they tend to be very soft singing, but I know it's a bluebird singing because they're usually doing it around the box. So anyway, I know about location, but that's an eastern bluebird, but let me play them. Number 7. Well, I got 7, okay.
Eastern bluebird.
There's a little hoarseness in it. Again, typically it's the male singing to protect the territory. Because typically by now they're probably, they may have fledged their first brood. They typically will have 3 broods a year. At least 2. Something fussy there. That's a fussy call. They're mad about something. Mad. Again, next year we do a whole class. If you got bluebird boxes, watch it. They may have fledged their first brood. Open the little side and take a peek. If there's nothing in there, take the nest out and they'll use it again. Or another one of the secondary cavity nesters like chickadees, titmice, wrens, tree swallows will use the same kind of box. So you can have any kind of, your one box could raise 5 broods a year of bluebirds or different birds. So they're all looking for an empty cavity to nest in. Who's next? We all know Jay. Jay! And remember, if you remember in our class, that we did in February, females choose their partners, and the flocks early in the year are led by females. I could certainly be a female. So that's Jay. Let's get to the J.
American goldfinch.
No. Don't do
American. Eastern bluebird.
There you go.
Blue jay.
If they flock in, they're all. I happen to adore blue jays. Every morning I put out whole peanuts for them. They love whole peanuts. That's their Tweedledee call. Tweedledee? Let me check our time. We need to skedaddle. Anyway, blue jays and titmice of all things love whole peanuts. And the whole peanut is like bigger than the head of the titmouse. Okay, move on. We gotta move on. American goldfinch. This is the one bird that loves to fly. It's got a flight song. When it's flying, it'll sing. Most birds don't do that. And the flight song is the mnemonic is either particularly, or potato chip. And I keep saying, you guys want chips? What is it? So let's quickly listen to this. We got,
American goldfinch.
Yeah. Potato chip. They'll sing when they're flying over your head. Okay, who's next? House finch. We've already mentioned these guys that the poor youngsters are begging from daddy. I'm going to play this quickly. We're running out of time, but it's very chattery. If you ever had a zebra finch, you buy finches that are for house birds, and that's what this one was originally, because they're very, very chattery.
House finch.
A lot of notes crammed in there. You're probably hearing and seeing a lot of these right now this time of year. Move on. Song sparrow, it's the one sparrow I included. It's because it's called a song sparrow because it's the one sparrow that really sings a lot. I'll do this very quickly. The mnemonic to remember it is maids, put on your tea kettle a little. Maids, put on your tea kettle a little. And that just tells you that it typically is about 3 phrases. and then it goes into a rattle, into a chatter. So maids, put on your tea kettle level. It's the one, this is the easiest sparrow to identify because of that one dark spot right in the center of his chest. We have about 8 or 9 sparrows. This is the easiest. They tend to live near water, in shrubbery near water. Let's move on.
Song sparrow.
Maids, go bring your ticket a little. Okay. We love these guys. This is another one of the early mnemonics I learned. That's a male. Drink your tea. Drink your tea. So that's the towhee, Eastern towhee. Let's play it.
Eastern towhee.
That's another very shy bird, hidden on the ground in shrubbery. John Young's book says if you got a towhee coming out to your feeder, that towhee totally trusts you because they're incredibly shy. And they okay. You got a pair. Come on out. She's perfectly fine. That's towhee. Phoebe tells you its name. That's where the name comes from. Just like chickadee comes from the call chickadee-dee-dee. Phoebe's name comes from its song. Phoebe, Phoebe, very high pitched.
Eastern phoebe.
Phoebe, 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 Phoebe. This is a bird I worry about. It's the only member of the flycatcher group that stays with us all winter, which means they depended on very few insects that may be out in winter. But that's the Eastern phoebe. I saw a couple this year, not a lot, around my house. Who's next? Oh, the magic man that can walk upside down a tree. How can you do that? We learned that. It's got extra large feet. Anyway, it's a very honk, 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 very nasally honk, 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 white-breasted nuthatch.
White-breasted nuthatch.
They come to your feeders. I recently read they're shyer than chickadees and titmice. So if they see that everything's safe and the titmice and chickadees are eating, they'll come too. But they're what I would call trunk birds. They work their way down the trunk. And last, I think, but certainly not least, mourning doves. Remember, they are super family oriented. A pair may have 5 or 6 broods a year, 2 at a time, and both mom and dad are intense parents. We have the 2 at a time, and I love the mnemonic. I hear this every day. Who are you? Who are you? And I say, it's me, Stephen Lynn. You see me every day. Who are you? You. It's like they're guarding my house. They want to know who's there. So let's do, this is our last.
Mourning dove.
I love that mnemonic.
Yeah. Thought that might have been an owl at one time.
Yeah, right. They are. I love them. They come to the safflower I put out too. And last but not least, if all of this is way too darn much, say, Stephen Lynn, you've been doing this 45 years. What do you expect of me? You can now, in our beautiful age of, you can download on your cell phone Merlin from Cornell, and I've mentioned Cornell 5 times a day, I think. Cornell, Merlin, all you gotta do is hold it up. You go inside, click a button, and just hold it out. Yesterday late, I was sitting out on the screen in porch, and I clicked Merlin. Had a Swenson's thrush somewhere around me. I had a wood thrush and a Swenson's thrush, in addition to all my other birds. So Merlin, I think they named it Merlin because it's magical like Merlin from King Arthur. And the little symbol of Cornell is a sapsucker because they call their, where the college, where the lab of ornithology is Sapsucker Woods. But download Merlin. You will love it. You will thank me. You'll sit out in the mornings or in the evening. Oh my goodness, there's a bay-breasted warbler up there somewhere. Because this time of year we got migratory birds passing through. Dun, da, da, da. You just finished class number 8. Now I'll turn it back over to the Dean of WBUniversity. I'm only a professor.